Here is a case that we have been waiting for many months, says Venerable Dhammajayo, abbot of the Dhammajayo Foundation. Tony Swang, a top engineer at Apple, submitted Steve Jobs a case study to the abbot. The Venerable is explaining how he had to think about this for many months, and he wasn't sure if it made sense to speak about the subject or not. However, once he determined that the case study was relevant to the law of karma, he decided to move forward with this case. This will be the study of the law of karma, which is universal knowledge for all, regardless of race, creed, gender. We are all under the law of karma. Since this case study was submitted to Longpa Dhammajayo, he decided to move forward and present the case. So now the Venerable will read the letter that was sent to him. My name is Tony Swang. I work for Apple, which is based out of California. The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, recently passed away. This has left many people sad. He's a very well-known person globally who produced new innovations such as the Macintosh computer, the iPhone, the iPod, the iPad. The Venerable says the only I that he knows is I love you. Everyone in the audience laughs. Tony goes on to explain in his letter how Apple products were high in demand with the leadership of Steve Jobs. He also tells the Venerable in his letter that Steve Jobs was born in California in the US and that he was adopted, that he studied at the university for only one semester, mainly because Steve Jobs found no subject matter interesting to capture his attention. Later, he forms a company with his friend, creating new technology and innovation that would change the world. He was an excellent leader and an excellent speaker. In 2005, he found out that he had pancreatic cancer. He would fight the sickness by working. One of his favorite songs, says Tony, is Let It Be by the Beatles. The first question that Tony asked the abbot is, where is Steve Jobs now that he has passed away? The Venerable jokes, let it be. And then everyone laughs. The Venerable says to the students of Dream Within a Dream, let's examine this and agree to move forward with the answer. He says we must study to make an understanding of life after death, that life after death is real. We must understand this first, that this destination is there for us regardless of social status, nationality, age, or form. When we pass away, we will move towards our future destination, which is in a different realm, either the fortunate realm or the unfortunate realm. There is life after death. The soul does go on. The quality of mind determines your future existence. The quality of one's mind, in terms of radiance or cloudiness, is determined by actions accumulated over one's lifetime performed, such as merits and demerits. The law of karma is universal to all, regardless of religion. It's like when you touch a hot frying pan, it is hot for everyone. On the other hand, if you touch ice, it will be cold. Even if you know this or not, it is universal. Keep in mind that there are different levels of the fortunate realms, and the levels are divided. And which level one goes to is determined by the radiance of their mind before they pass away. The same can be said in regards to the unfortunate realms. Before Steve Jobs passed away, he was very worried about many things, such as his company, his family, different projects. But the thing that worried and concerned him the most was when he died. What is a life after death? Where will he go? What is the place he will go to? He was attached to many things which lingered in his mind. Before the passing away, he had many images come into his mind. Some images made him sad. Other images made his mind happy. He had a hot temper and lashing tongue, which would hurt his subordinates. When he thought about these images, it made him sad. Images that made his mind radiant and happy were images of his donations to various charities in his lifetime to help build schools and help pass knowledge to his subordinates and students. So his mind was not so radiant and not so cloudy. A radiant mind is an accumulation of your good deeds, such as generosity, upholding precepts, and meditation. A cloudy mind is an accumulation of bad deeds, such as killing animals, lying, causing suffering to others, and drinking alcohol. As a result of his state of mind, he's born into a fortunate realm. However, the realm that he resides in is very close to the human realm. Had he pursued virtues in this life by meditating or generosity towards fertile fields of merit, he may have been born into higher levels. The next question, asked from Tony, is, why was Steve Jobs so smart and innovative? Why is it that whatever he thought of became successful and something that was needed around the world? In terms of his smartness and his innovation, which gave him the ability to create new products that he introduced to the world, this didn't just happen in this lifetime. It was an accumulation of the wisdom and merit from the act of generosity that he has accumulated throughout many lifetimes. Take the analogy of a bird building its nest. It takes one straw at a time, and finally it has built its nest. Same with Steve Jobs. He had to accumulate his wisdom and generosity little by little throughout his lifetimes, until finally in this lifetime, these accumulated merits bared its fruits. It is impossible to take into account each detail of every lifetime because we have all been born and reborn again at an incalculable number, so the Venerable will only choose the ones that are most relevant to answer the questions asked by Tony. 1. Let's take an example of one of his lifetimes. It was during a time of epidemic and disease. Food was hard to find. Many people would suffer out of starvation. In this lifetime, Steve Jobs suffered out of hunger and was in a peasant family. However, it was his responsibility in this lifetime to take care of his parents, whom were both elderly and they were unable to work. This gave him a lot of responsibility and pressure. He decided to run away from his problems by running away from home and leaving his parents so that they can be in a better place, so that he can be in a better place. So this caused suffering to his parents, and they eventually died. So he did not take his parents with him. He abandoned them. Don't forget, we are using this lifetime for his research, as far as this particular life that we are talking about. Though Steve Jobs went to another town that was healthier, it didn't matter because of the karma of him leaving his parents. This is a very strong karmic retribution, and it bared its fruits right away in that very lifetime for Steve Jobs. No matter what business he entered, he failed. This was due to the karma of him abandoning his parents when they needed him. However, to him, he rationalized the reason he was failing in business probably had to do with him being a slow learner or lacking imagination and creativity. This very same lifetime, Steve Jobs came across a monk, a Samabat, who had reached the first absorption in meditation. He had no idea that this monk was a high-level monk. He started to learn from this monk and listen to sermons. His mind started to get bright. He started to have faith in the knowledge he was learning. As his wisdom grew, he started to feel very guilty for abandoning his parents. As a result of the knowledge he learned from this monk, he decided to dedicate his life to gaining merit and doing only good deeds, hoping to dilute the demerit that he had committed in his life. With all this effort, he poured generosity to the fertile field of merit the Somabat monk that he had met. Every time Steve Jobs did an act of generosity to the monk, by either alms offering or donations, he always made a wish. His wish was, may I be clever and smart. May I be innovative, and whatever product I invent be something that is needed throughout the world. No matter what I do, may I always achieve success. This was his wish every single time he made merit with this monk. He continued to accumulate merit with this monk who had reached the first jhana. So this particular monk was the fertile field of merit for Steve Jobs to accumulate merit with. Anyone who created merit with this type of monk, one who has reached the first jhana, was like charging their battery directly to the source. This merit is powerful, since this particular monk had reached a certain high level of meditative state. 2. The following life, Steve Jobs was a farmer, and he had an idea that he wanted to improve productivity of not only his land, but his farmer friends as well. He developed a new water irrigation system that doubled productivity for not only his farm, but others as well, who implemented the same irrigation system, and their productivity vastly improved. 3. There was another life where Steve Jobs was born into, and disaster would occur often at his village. He was a kind person who wanted to help others. He developed a warning system to help the village know when danger was close so that all can escape if needed. In this particular life, he was trying to protect his village people, and he had a vision and strategy to implement a warning system. 4. Next life is an important life that we will discuss. He was very handsome, born into a middle-class family. This was a time when countries were governed by administrative regions. The most important factor of this time, relevant to Steve Jobs, is this is one of the times that the teaching of one of the Buddhas had been disseminated. Though Buddhism had different schools, kind of like our current time now, in this life, Steve Jobs was a Buddhist. The reason he was born into a town that embraced Buddhism had to do with the accumulation of his merit that he had performed towards monks in previous lives, and that he had studied the teachings of the Buddha throughout his many existences. That is why in this life he was able to have a connection with Buddhism again. He was a businessman in this life where he would sell bowls, plates, vases, knives, kitchen utensils. He was a merchant traveling to different places. His business was up and down. One day, as he was selling his products, he ventured to a town where he came across a temple. This temple was clean, serene, and had a pleasant atmosphere that was inviting to him. He wanted to go inside the temple and pay his respects to the monks who resided there. He entered the temple and met many of the monks within the temple. As he began to meet with the monks and learn from them and listen to sermons, he had faith in the knowledge that he was learning. He found out that the abbot of this temple was not here, that he was in a cave meditating and would not return until a long time. Steve Jobs retained this information, but when he heard it, he wanted to meet this abbot. He left the temple and entered the city that he planned to go to. He was very happy, and his mind was filled with joy. After leaving the temple, he just felt good about what he saw and learned. His heart was overjoyed as he thought about wanting to do merit with this temple. He said that he wanted to accumulate merit with all the monks at the temple. This is what he was thinking about as he ventured to his next city. At this time, though, he didn't have a lot of money. He still wanted to do big merit. Because of this reason, he was determined to think of a way to make offerings to the Buddhist temple he came across. He was going to find a way to do this. He was already a merchant selling bowls and kitchen utensils, so he figured what he could do is call on the help of all his customers, get his customers to cook meals to bring to the temple, and put it in the bowl. Afterwards, they can have the bowl as a present for free, as a gift. His idea was brilliant. His heart was filled with happiness as he recruited people to gain merit with him in food offering. Though he didn't have money to do it for the committee of monks, he was able to have others help and share the merit with him. He did this for 7 days straight. Afterwards, his mind was light and happy. It was radiant. He was the master of ceremony and helped others to host food offerings as well. When he left that town, every time he thought about the good deeds he performed, he would be happy. A whole year had passed. He was still a merchant and came back to the temple. When coming to the temple, he paid his respects to the same temple. This time, he found out that the abbot who had been meditating in the cave would be coming back to the temple. When he found this out, he was very excited because he wanted to pay his respect to this monk for a whole year and had been waiting to meet him. He wanted to do merit with this abbot, and as he walked to the city, he was excited to make money so he can donate food offerings to the abbot who was returning. This time, he didn't even set up his shop, and he had a line of people who wanted to buy his products. This time, he was really successful. He wasn't able to sell a lot a year ago because his prices were too high, and he was too confident in his products. But this time, he did well since he gave his products away, and many people really liked it. So it actually ended up being a good thing for him, since people sampled his products and everyone loved it. He sold out of all products. So that is why his products sold so well when he returned. He used his money to donate to the temple. When he met with this abbot, he was delighted and had so much faith in what he was learning. He asked if he would train with the monks and wanted to learn to meditate. The abbot agreed. He did this training for 3 months, and with all merits gained during the time, he would make the following wish: may I be rich, may I be successful, and produce good products. May my products be well received and wanted by all. During the 3 months of training, he was able to achieve good results, even seeing brightness in his meditation. However, the brightness was outside of his body. Now that he had training for his mind, he used it in his daily life. As a result, positive things happened in his life, and his products were well known throughout villages. And every year, when this abbot would return to the temple, he would invite others to join him in food offerings and gain merit together. So he often created merit and was consistent until he passed away in that life. As a result of all the merits he had accumulated, he had gone to the second level of heaven in that life. 5. In this life, he took another career, a career as a sculptor. He was very successful in this life, comparable to the likes of Michelangelo. He also had a lot of faith in the teachings of the Buddha to create good deeds, uphold the precepts, and meditate, since he was born a Buddhist in that life. This was a life where he accumulated much merit. He helped to build a temple for his city where people could come to listen to Dhamma and create merit for themselves through offerings of food for monks or through meditation. Being a part of building a temple made his heart happy, and with all merits he would always make the following wish: may I be rich, may I be talented, may I be famous. When he passed away in this life, he also went to the second level of heaven. 6. This time when he came back to the human realm, he was Steve Jobs, who had come from the second level of heaven. In this current life, his habit of passion for his work carried over from previous lives. In this life, he was a perfectionist, a hard worker, loving to work and only present the best. There was never a I can't do it, always an I can do it, and I will always be the best. This too came from previous lives. These habits and the accumulation of his previous deeds combined bared its fruits in this life. Therefore, this life, he was very smart, very innovative, and had beneficial products and was successful in all of his endeavors. Keep in mind, some of his lives were skipped. The Venerable only spoke about the ones relevant to answering his questions. In his first life, he left his parents, but he met a Somabad, where he dedicated and accumulated good deeds. His second life, he created an irrigation system that helped the whole entire village. His third life, he invented a warning system. His fourth life, he was a merchant and he shared his merits to all. His fifth life, he built a temple. His sixth life, he was Steve Jobs. Learning about the law of karma is beneficial for all of us. When we learn about the law of karma, we can use this to help ourselves in this life by accumulating good deeds.